Okay, imagine this. You take like 5 to 6 shots, all with different lighting, and then you merge them all together in Photoshop, so you have like one main photo, which is made up of 5 different photos. So you have like the best photo from 5 photos. Okay, so I know this is nothing new, and I've known about photo compositing for a while, but I've never known about it in this sense where you can just elevate your product photography. So today, that's what we're going to be doing, some product photography of this bottle, Suze. It's from France, so Suze. Yeah, so we're going to be taking some product photography of this, 5 different shots, compositing them all together into one dope photo. Oh, and by the way, we're only going to be using one light because this is the one light challenge, so doing all this with one light, we're going with the aperture 300D. Let's get to it. So let's begin. I'm making a simple set for the bottle to sit in. The bottle has a nice yellow, golden, rustic color to it, so a nice wooden set would go with it quite nicely. And our kitchen counter at home is wooden already, so that's perfect for building the set on. I placed a nice rustic Outback style circular cutting board on the bottom, and then a newer, sleeker, larger and flat cutting board behind it as a background. It has a few burn and scratch marks on it, which add a bit of character as well, which helps make the bottle feel like it's in some sort of distillery in like the south of France or something. Also, I made sure to remove the label on the back of the bottle so that the light passes through the bottle a lot better later on. Make sure to wipe the side of the bottle so that everything is really clean and there's no fingerprints or smudges on the glass. Now that everything was set, I just need to set up the camera. Dial in the focus and set it to manual. It is super important to set your focus to manual. The last thing you want is for your focus to keep changing throughout the shoot. Then do the same thing for your white balance. I found that if you choose auto white balance and have your light moving around a whole bunch, it'll inevitably change at some point, and you'll just get a more consistent look if that doesn't happen. I also use my phone to remotely control the camera, so I never had to touch it after it was set up. As I mentioned before, I'm using the aperture 300D with a softbox. So firstly I took a photo lit from the front, mainly focusing on lighting the label. I lit it from the left side and just added a piece of white cardboard paper on the other side to try to fill in some of the shadow. For the second shot, I placed the light on the right behind the background to accentuate the right side of the bottle with a nice white glow. I then did the same thing on the other side to get that same glow on the left too. And to be honest, I think these shots look super dramatic and I'm super happy with how the light made the bottle look. I then took off the softbox and shined the light at this golden sheet of paper that I had. I originally thought that this would allow the light to reflect off the paper and have a nice golden light reflect through the back of the bottle, but it didn't really work out exactly as I thought it would. Instead, it lit up a small portion of the beautifully embroidered glass writing on the front of the bottle, which I think looked really good too, so we may use that later on. The next part was just to light the background. And lastly, because I still need to backlight the bottle to get that liquid to glow, I removed the background cutting board and just placed the light with a softbox back on behind it. Next part is to upload all your photos on your computer and bring them into Photoshop. If you've brought them into Lightroom like I have, just right click on all the photos you want, hover over Edit In, then choose Open as Layers in Photoshop. I like to go through and rename all the layers just so I know exactly what I'm doing. Place the shot that we lit for the background on the bottom, and basically we're just going to go through and build onto this base photo. Select the next layer up, so in this case the label layer. Click on the Add Layer Mask button. Instead of brushing everything away that we don't want and keeping what we do, it's easier to just brush in what we want to. So to do this, select on the layer mask that you've created, and then just hit Command I to invert the mask. And then with the foreground color selected, just start painting in what you want. So basically just brushing all the light back into the label right now. Then we move on to the backlit bottle shot. Do the same thing as we did before and create an inverted layer mask. Then brush in the part of the bottle where we see the liquid and just watch it start to glow up. The next part was to add the glow on the left and the right side of the bottle. To do this, I again added an inverted layer mask, but instead of just painting everything in, I changed the blend mode to lighten so that when I painted over the edge of the bottle, only the highlights would appear. And of course I did this for both sides. I reduced the opacity of the left side's glow to 40% and the right side's glow to 90% because the shot we lit for the background made it look like the image was lit from the right, so it only made sense to make the right side of the bottle appear brighter than the left side of the bottle. Then to finish it off, I painted in the golden sparkles where the 1889 is embroidered onto the bottle, and then I reduced its opacity to 50% just to tone it down a little bit. I made some small tweaks after this, like increasing the exposure and the vibrance of the label and making the background slightly darker. And this is the final image. I think it's not too bad, but there are a couple things that I feel like I could have done a little bit better. Firstly, I don't think the background is very interesting. It's kind of flat and slightly uninspiring. I think I'd want to have some sort of pattern or more intense change in lighting just to make that background a little bit more dramatic. Also, the overall feel and general direction of the light is slightly off in my opinion. I don't know, it might just be me, but I don't like having the light on the label coming in from the left side and then everything else lit from the right side. So that was one of the mistakes that I made while I was shooting. I also don't like how the cap is very dark, so when we redo this, I think we're gonna have to do a separate shot specifically just to light the cap. And lastly, if you look around the edges of the bottle, you can see that there's a black outline around where the glow is. And that's caused because the light was too far away from the bottle when I took the backlit photo. So we're just gonna have to bring the light a lot closer when I take the next photo. I also think in between the label and the glass, it could have been edited a lot better to have a lot smoother edges. I do really like the gold shimmer coming through on the 1889 embroidered glass on the front of the bottle, and that super dramatic glow on the left and the right help improve the photo so much as well. So before restarting, I made sure in my head that all the lighting that I did from the front of the bottle would be from the right to the left. So the label, the bottle cap, and the background. This is just so that there's a general direction of where the light's coming from in the final image. It wouldn't look so good if like the light looked like it had multiple light sources, and I think it just looks better if all the light's coming from one side. So lighting the label, as I just mentioned, I'm shooting it from the right side, and I found a nice big white foam board that I used to fill the shadow side of the label. So lighting the background, I went for a completely different approach to this. I took off the softbox because I really wanted to shape the light to get a dramatic feel. I put on a standard reflector, and then I started wishing I had some barn doors or a snoot or something. To be honest, I had to search these up before the video, but now I know what they are and they're kind of cool. And I kind of want them. But anyways, to create some sort of snoot shaped modifier, I just took a black piece of paper and rolled it up so that it kind of looked like a snoot. I then placed it inside the reflector, and that made a nice dramatic effect on the background. It's a little risky to use paper though, as the light can get kind of hot sometimes, so it can burn the paper, and to be honest, I did smell some smoke at certain points, so I had to make sure I was really snappy with putting the paper in and taking it back out. But I think it worked out quite well. The background is really nice and very dramatic. I also took some shots specifically lit for the bottle cap. I noticed a strong reflection on it that I didn't like. So at first I tried to add another layer of diffusion onto the softbox, but it was still quite noticeable. So I took the softbox back off and put the reflector on and bounced the light off of that foam board from before onto the cap. But then I just had to light the bottle from the back, both back left and back right, to get that super dramatic glow outline on the bottle. And then when I shot directly from behind, I brought the light a lot closer to the bottle, which filled in those black gaps on the edges. I went through pretty much the exact same process in editing, just with a few minor tweaks. Firstly, one thing that helped improve the quality of the selection from the backlit glow effect was to change the blend mode on the layer to lighten. This basically allows me to paint as close to the label as possible without any of the darker label areas coming through. So only the light glow areas of the glass would appear, which is exactly what we wanted. Another thing I did differently was when I painted the side glow, I reduced the flow as I reached the bottom of the glass so that the white line would gradually fade out as it went further down the side of the bottle. I did something similar for the bottle cap too, so the light on the bottle cap would be similar to the light on the background. And lastly, because the background was so dark and dramatic, that nice rustic cutting board on the bottom was completely blacked out. So I grabbed the second bottle cap layer that I had and used that to brush the cutting board back in. I also slightly darkened the bottom right of the bottle to kind of match the lighting of the background again, which is very slight and hard to notice, but these details make a big difference. The last thing to do was just to clean everything up. And I'm kind of stoked with how this turned out. Okay, I've been wanting to try this drink for so long. I mean, 2 days since I bought the bottle. I've been looking at it, really wanted to try it, but I couldn't because I still had to take the photos. But now that the photos are over, I've made myself a Suze tonic. Let's see how it is. That is very good. Highly recommend getting yourself Suze and making a Suze tonic. That is delicious. But anyways, let's get back to the shoot. I completely love taking these photos and putting them all together in Photoshop. It was almost like putting together a puzzle. It was like super interesting, super fun to do. Piece it all together and end up with a photo that you're proud of, something for the portfolio, and hopefully something that can bring in some clients too. I'm definitely going to be trying out some more of these with different drinks, maybe some whiskey, Aperol Spritz, or maybe even some coffee. Coffee would be cool. Never mind. We'll figure it out later. So I hope you're able to take something away from this video. I certainly was able to learn quite a lot throughout this, so I hope you did too. And as always, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like, comment down below, subscribe as well. That'd be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.